$100,000 in each year to fund 2 multi-jurisdictional assistant commonwealth attorneys who will be dedicated to prosecuting insurance fraud. Limited resources and heavy caseloads dealing with other major crimes, robbery, rapes, murders, etc., really reduce the number of insurance fraud prosecutions. This will really help to get this up and running. It's been done in a number of other states with great success in reducing insurance fraud in Colorado, New Jersey, and Texas, to name a few. No additional general fund money is requested.
To the end of the
State
room.
Police and the Compensation Board
Are you filming?
Planning and Budget.
You need to move down to the end of the
Joint
room.
agreements have been reached with the affected Commonwealth attorneys.
Let's see if the chairman's okay with it. Then just stay here. He may make you move.
Okay.
I hope it will be a pleasure to look favorably upon this budget amendment language.
Questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
We move our sign up, Delegate Colonel Wiedenheffer. Colonel Wiedenheffer is on page 4.
Thank you, sir. We're looking at item 394, number 9H. It's associated with my House Bill 1769. In summary of what the bill does, it adds the military members in the state to the list of law enforcement officers and emergency medical personnel who are injured, maliciously injured. So it covers 2 different things. One would be just their basic malicious wounding, and it makes that a felony offense, and then it also adds them to the list of prohibition when it comes to pointing laser lights at them. The cost associated with this that was generated talked mostly to the potential for additional beds in the correctional facility, some unknown costs associated with handling of these types of cases. My bill hasn't actually been heard yet.
Mark, if you were an MP down at Quantico and something, you now will be covered by the Virginia statute.
Yes. And you know, the number of military people who commute back and forth to work wearing uniform, there are some instances, I think, that if you wanted, the Guard could expound on for the future. But I think this is a critical need for our military to protect our military.
$50,000 would remove that.
With that?
$50,000 would remove that. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, 50,000 is the.
So it's a Woodrum impact, okay, for your bill. What's the status of your bill?
I haven't actually briefed it yet. I was kind of surprised I'd be up here before the bill.
It's fine. We needed to hear it. Questions? No? Thank you, sir. Delegate Corey, you're next on the list. Delegate Corey's item is on page 7. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good to see my grandson again.
Oh, this is an aside. How old is your
He's
grandson?
almost 2. He's smarter than I am, too.
I have a 9-month-old
but
that
most
is
people
smarter
know that
than
already.
me. So
Okay, you have
I do. Yes.
394.5A.
You haven't signed up, and you do have it.
This budget item supports House Bill number 162. And 162 expands the category of persons who, to whom it is illegal to take advantage because of their incapacity due to age, mental condition. I will read you the list. Incapacity, mental or aging, or physical illness or disability, or any other cause that prevents that person from understanding the nature or consequences of the transaction or disposition of money or other thing of value involved in the offense. It also refers to the seizure and forfeiture of property used in connection with the financial exploitation. This bill does not change the penalty, but because it expands the
It also has a Woodrum impact of 50,000.
Yes, because it
I think
expands.
we understand it. Questions of Delegate Ford? Okay, thanks for coming up.
Thank you very much.
I see Chairman Albo. Chairman Albo, do you have something for us?
I do, but
Happy grandson.
you can put me on the list, I don't need to go right now.
You know what it is you got?
Yeah, it's a budget amendment,
Chairman Albo's is on page 1.
So, this is kind of a thing I'm working, in Fairfax, we have a certain number of circuit court judge seats, I forget how many, say it's 12. One is half funded, it has remained half funded and empty for about 8 years. In order for me to put a judge on the bench, I'm kind of working an agreement where I would kill that seat. So we have 3 empty seats right now. I want to put 2 judges in, and the deal is that I need to kill one of my seats. So I'm asking you guys to execute one of my seats.
Got it.
Which is probably the easiest vote you'll ever have, right?
Question for the executioner. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, thanks.
Okay, next on our list is Delegate Habib.
He's in transportation full currently, so he's asking.
Okay, we'll fill that amendment. Delegate LaRock. Delegate Lamb, this is after our coordinator. Delegate Stolly. Delegate Lethbridge.
Yes, sir.
Looks like you're the only one who wants it.
Well, that's my lucky day, I guess. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this budget amendment supports House Bill 1522.
Hey, Jake.
All right, it's 394 11H. So I have a updated JLARC budget analysis, which I can pass out to the committee if you like, or I can have it run up to your designee. On page 3 of that, it says that this bill has no net fiscal impact, and that there'd be a net savings over the course of time. So really what I'm asking for this budget amendment is just be maybe held in the queue in case it becomes necessary, but I don't think it will be.
Okay, you got that for staff?
Yes, sir.
We should have.
Yes.
If I get it to us, we'll
Here you go.
take care of it. Question? Any question? Delegate Poindexter? What's the status of the bill? Have you presented the bill yet?
Well, in courts, they have this thing called the ice box. Anything that costs money goes in the ice box. Okay, so now that I have the JLARC study, I'm hoping to get it out of the ice box and get it in here.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Rush, you are on the committee, so we'll... Okay, Delegate, we're going to get there. Delegate Price. Hello, Delegate Price. Welcome to the beneficent subcommittee on public safety.
Thank you.
Page 17.
So
Please.
I'm speaking to, Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking to item 398, number 12H.
Okay.
The amendment provides $250,000 in fiscal year 2018, the Summer Training and Enrichment Program, better known as STEP, which offers summer employment opportunities for at-risk students, at-risk adults, in Newport News. The STEP program is to help deter juvenile delinquency while school is in recess. It goes up to age 24 and helps young adults gain more training and workforce development after graduation. In 2015, the city had about 350 students to participate, and in part attributed to a reduction in youth crime over the summer by 17%. In 2016, the program expanded to 500 students, where the area they could apply from was also expanded because the problems that we're facing do not occur in just one section of the city. The students are hired and paid by the city and placed for employment experiences at local businesses that have agreed to participate. And not only do they earn a paycheck and independence, they also gain on-the-job training and job preparation for their experience. And each year we've had several students be hired for permanent positions from the summer program. Over the summer months of 2016, juvenile arrests decreased by 27%. The city is looking to keep expanded numbers of youth or reduce the number of students and extend the time frame of the program, and the money would help to maintain the program at the expanded capacity. I would say that this program has been so successful that the entire Hampton Roads region is looking to replicate it.
Let me ask you, is this a city-run program currently?
Yes,
So essentially, you're asking the state to partner with you on this?
yes.
Okay. What is
So
its
that it can
overall-
expand to
what-
even
what's
more.
its- Yeah, what's its overall funding right now per year?
I can,
Which, how many localities are involved?
one right now.
Right. And how much is that locality putting toward the program?
I want to say it was 1.2 million.
1.2 million?
That may be the 2015 number. I can get that to you.
But that's fine, you can get it to David.
Okay.
But you're looking for additional state.
So that they could expand it and hopefully reduce crime even more than the 27%.
It's a very worthy program, it's, you know, the deal.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you have represented them well.
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, Delegate Cole. Page 3. Yes, sir, podium yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is just simply a language amendment, and it was put in at the request of a constituent who had an issue recently. All it would do is require law enforcement in the case of a death where they have to go in and confiscate prescription drugs of the person who passed away, that there's a surviving spouse, they would be required to provide a receipt or inventory of all the prescriptions that they took from the residents.
Have you gotten any indication from,
Sheriff's Association is here to speak to it.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members.
you don't
of
look
the-
like DCJ.
Yeah,
I think
Sheriff's
You look like a guy who shoots trees, right?
I think many times we do this anyway, and I'll work with Delegate Cole, and we'll make sure everybody gets the word out.
We got it. Thank you. Okay, questions, anybody for Delegate Cole on this? Okay, Delegate Murphy. Okay, we'll cycle back, Delegate Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I think we're asking for a whopping $35,000 here. The issue is Craig County is such a small county that their clerk's office only qualifies for one deputy and one part-time deputy. Just because of the nature of running an office and sick leave and all that kind of thing, they're running significant problems in actually staffing that office they're required to keep open. What we're trying to do is get some funding to make that half-time part employee into a full-time employee. Anybody familiar with Craig County and the financial issues they deal with, being essentially a 60% national forest jurisdiction and everything else going on, that they just don't have the money locally. So we're hoping to find a little money to make a part-time employee a full-time employee.
You're looking for the state to pick up the bill for Craig County's.
That's right. Well, for a part-time employee and they're become full-time.
Questions of Delegate Abe?
I think the state already picks up.
That's right. The state pays a portion of it
Compensation.
through the comp board. We're just trying to elevate that job to a full-time job.
I got it. Okay. I want it to be a full-time. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Delegate Abe, that you brought that handsome young man that your son up there, you might have had a shot at this.
Appreciate it. I'll set him up next. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's see, circle back here. Is Delegate Barak here? Delegate Landis? Delegate Stoneley? Rush? Delegate James, sir?
Thank you, sir. Good morning to the members of the subcommittee.
Page six. Yes, sir.
This amendment would add $5.7 million to the state assistance for local law enforcement programs known as House Bill 599. This program provides state funding for 38 cities, 9 counties, and 128 towns throughout the state, and it represents about 70% of all Virginians. And the intent of this amendment is to bring the funding to this program in line with the anticipated increase in state revenues in fiscal year 2018. I do have some speakers here who can fill in the details, and thank you.
Good morning. I'm Janet Arison with the Virginia Municipal League, and this is one of our legislative priorities for the year. The House Bill 599 program has been around since the late 70s, and as the delegate said, it does help all of our cities 128 of our towns and 9 counties with police departments. And we actually have a little chart of the red line is what 599 funding would be like if we'd been following the ebbs and flows of state funding and how it affects 599. But the blue line is where we are, and it's about $116 million difference since the year 2000. And so, as the delegate said, this would help to bring this in line with what the state general fund revenue collections are like. The General Assembly always has the authority to, and it's in the Appropriations Act, that if revenues go down, that they can reduce the revenues to this program as well, so it wouldn't lock you in. You would be able to do and respond to the economy as it ebbs and flows too. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Just so that you understand, we are, and I think probably Delegate Poindexter can speak to this better than me or something, but I think you should know that a big focus that we have this year is around compensation. So just keep that in mind as we look at these different concepts.
In other words, there's sort of two ways to get the money. One's in the Bible script.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Sherry Neal, Legislative Liaison for the City of Portsmouth. And as one of the impacted cities, I do say this is very important to us, and we hope that you will give us some favorable considerations during the deliberations.
You should be comforted to know it's important that Prince William and Manassas Park and Fairfax support everybody. We take it seriously.
Thank you.
Any others?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Delegate Marquez.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and
Page
members
14.
of the committee. I'm here to discuss with you funding for a Women's Veteran Services Coordinator, which would add $98,029. It doesn't say if there are any cents actually connected to this. I'm a member of the Board of Veteran Services, and we strongly support the creation of this position. As of 2016, there are more than 111 women veterans living in Virginia. We have the highest percentage of women vets in the country, and 4 out of 5 of our women veterans have served in combat. They've served our Commonwealth and our nation, and many of these women have special needs. Many of them are in desperate need of services. Unfortunately, the task of meeting their needs is spread out over multiple employees in multiple places at VVS, and it makes it harder for them to access, harder for us to coordinate and monitor these services. We believe that we owe it to our women veterans to have the services managed by a full-time women veteran services coordinator, and that's my request for you today to please fund this.
Questions for Delegate Marquez? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. I'm going back to my staff list. I'm trying to see members here. Delegate LaRock, did you show up? Delegate Madison. Delegate Stalin. Hey, Delegate Rush, why don't you go ahead and explain yours as long as we've got you here captivated.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, this was put in last year. It creates a new area office for the state police, divides Roanoke. Currently, Roanoke and New River Valleys are put together. So it's a growth area, excuse me, and they haven't had this change for a while. We actually funded this last year, but it was taken out of the governor's budget, so this put it back in.
Okay, questions from Delegate Rush? Do we have other members who are present? Here who is speaking for a member, would you step forward and identify yourself?
Good morning. I am Mary Franklin, Chief of Staff to Delegate Danny Marshall.
Okay, all right, excellent. I told Danny we would, do you have someone here to?
Yes, sir.
Which Delegate Marshall's?
It is 398, number 4H.
Page 13, I'm sorry, 13. Okay, do you have someone you want to have speak to this?
Yes, we do, and Delegate Marshall does thank you for your consideration of this amendment. I'd like to introduce Everlina Ross. She's the Executive Director of Pennsylvania County Community Action, and she will address the request.
But essentially, please come forward, ma'am, just so that we understand here, this amendment provides $50,000 in general fund in the second year for the Southwest Cares program that serves Danville and Pennsylvania, provides reentry services to prison inmates and newly released parolees. Why don't you tell us about your program? We've got the substance of what you want to accomplish.
Good morning, and thank you all.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your program?
The Southwest program is located in Danville, Pennsylvania County. Is the only program in that area that provides services to ex-offenders and returning citizens. The services we provide are reentry, job training, rehabilitation. We provide them clothing. We address their physical and mental needs. We collaborate with 28 other entities in the Danville area to provide the special services.
Are you a 501c3 or are you a nonprofit?
We are nonprofit, yes, sir. Last year, we held 2 job and resources fairs in which there were over 300 attendees, ex-offenders, and they not only came from the Danville, Pennsylvania County area, but they came from the Halifax and the Morrisville area. There we were able to connect them to all the resources they needed in the community. Employers were there, and as a result of those 2 job fairs, we have hired at least 59 employees, ex-offenders who have remained on the job for at least the 9 months, and that is a success. We also did a family reunification program. We've had 2 of those in which we again bring the communities in to address all the needs of the communities to include PATH. Again, this is the only program in the Danville, Pennsylvania County area that addresses the needs of the ex-offenders and returning citizens. It has been a very successful program. We've advocated on behalf of the returning citizens to get their parole, their violations suspended, and family reunification has greatly improved. And without this service, we believe that it's a tragedy for the Danville, Pennsylvania County area because of the crime rate. Everybody wants to have a right to life and get their food. So recidivism is a big part of our program, and this helps prevent further crime. So we're asking for, if you would consider us.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee, Delegate Poindexter?
Thank you. Is this effort already funded, or has it been funded in the past, or is this a new request? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Delegate Gilbert in the room. Delegate Gilbert, do you have something you want to share with us? What page is that? That would be page 5. Mr. Podium Jury. Page 5. Give your attention to Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this budget request is meant to accompany a bill that I filed related to an issue that you heard last year. You may recall we had a bill to allow petitioners in a protective order situation to be able to carry a firearm for their protection concealed without having to go wait in line at the courthouse to get a permit, and essentially to be able to avail themselves of their right to self-defense while they waited for their permit to be approved by the judge. Last year we filed a training companion to that. The issue that I think you heard last year was that we, from the domestic violence community, was that they didn't want any of that, even though it was going to be a drop in the bucket that was going to come out of their fund, they didn't want any of their funds touched for that. So this year we've just come back with a very small, relatively small ask to just put some seed money in that. I can't imagine that there would be a tremendous, number of people who would ever even touch this fund, but certainly we want to make it available to those who need the training to feel comfortable, who can't otherwise learn how to defend themselves properly and do it safely and accurately and retain their weapon and things like that. So we wanted to fund it with a little money in it, and that's all it does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I remember we said we would do that, so thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's see, we've exhausted our sign-up sheet except for, I'm talking about people pre-signed up. Delegate Barat, did he come in? Okay, let's do this. I see that Delegate Ferris is here and Delegate Collins. Delegate Collins, you come up. Delegate Ferris, you're next. Page 3 for Delegate Collins. All right, sir, our attention is on you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. HB 2288, is that just make sure I'm on the right bill. Okay, thank you. So HB 2288 is an already existing statute. We were adding language. The Hospital Association wanted to, for ransomware, there was a news article actually out today that an IT individual who left, was a disgruntled employee, left and said, I can unlock your computers for $200,000. That's the kind of behavior they want to prevent. But because this is enhanced, they're enhancing the punishment to from class 6 to class 5, as well as making the class a little bit bigger under this statute. It has the $50,000 arbitrary criminal provision.
Woodrum impact.
Yes, sir.
Questions, Delegate Collins? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Delegate Ferris. Page 4.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My appropriations budget amendment request number 398, number 9H, is for a truancy officer for Buckingham County. Buckingham County Schools has consolidated all into one school in the county. It's a big county, and it has missed its accreditation marks last year and a half. Been struggling to get back together. And one thing the school board tells me that they're having a really tough time getting these kids to school. To come to school is a lot of dysfunctional family type situations with grandparents and other members of the family, and they feel a truancy officer would get the kids to school and they could get their grades.
So the FTE is $75,000.
$75,000 is
for the truancy officer.
One
or two?
One.
Almost twice as much as what a state police.
Well, you've got so many other things that go along with it, with a vehicle and, for his total expenses.
Would he be a Buckingham County School Board employee?
No, he'd be a Sheriff's Department employee. The Sheriff's Department
So
would get to use it
let me
the
ask,
rest
does
of the
this
year.
normally flow through the comp board sort of thing? There's a formula for that. Buckingham doesn't trip the wire right now. Ben, we're gonna run the numbers on this and go back and see what it is in the comp board. I'm kind of surprised you don't have at least one truancy officer. Everybody needs one of those.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Now, at least the truancy officers that I work with, the probation officers, I work with the court services unit through DPOJ. So I don't know if this is a different type of truancy officer that they're contemplating with someone who would be.
Do you know that?
No, we just don't have one, and they
not even in this scenario that Chris was talking about.
Not that I'm aware of, and this is a superintendent, like I said, it's all consolidated under one school now, and so we've got one superintendent, one school board. One set of principals.
And Delegate Feast, you said who does this normally work under?
Well, there are two different types of truancy officers. There's going to be the one that's working in the school, that is responsible for bringing petitions to the court when the absences reach the statutory threshold.
And that would be a sheriff employee?
And it may be an employee of the school system. So, that's that side. And then once you're into the court process, if the court is adjudged the truant under a CHIMS, then there's a DJJ employee that can be a truancy probation officer that supervises that child and makes sure that child is going to school. So when you're talking about truancy, there are a couple of different.
Yeah, that's
people
as if
involved.
the child has a court record and has come through the courts. And I think what he's saying
Original
is,
petitions.
this, you may have a kid who's not going through the courts and just not getting to school.
Right, yes,
And
yes,
so
sir,
you're
Mr.
trying
Chairman.
to find a way to corral that person and get them to school.
Exactly. And so, I may be asking, when you ask me, we work for the sheriff's department, you may have a good point. I may,
Why don't you do this? Why don't you circle back and just sort of validate that and get that to David?
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr.
You got
Chairman.
anything else, man?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Delegate Stale, distinguished member of the committee, please, sir, you're next. Page 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two. If we could start with 70, number 2H. Language amendment, basically shall not apply to inmates detained in local jails as requested by ICE. Currently, if a local jail is housing a federal prisoner, the state does a clawback of the per diem for that money at a percentage of what the state contributed to the construction of that jail. So if the state contributed 25%, they take 25% of the per diem back. What this does is that if the jail is holding prisoners, federal prisoners, on a recommendation by ICE, that the local jails get to keep that full amount. It essentially provides more money for the jails to be able to hold prisoners for ICE.
And just one time, I can understand the genesis of this request, but just so I understand, what is the rationale, again, for retaining all of the money in this particular case where it's a ICE detainee?
I believe that for the jails, it just provides additional incentive. And
So there's nothing particularly unusual that would say, you know, if we don't do this, it's not fair because of the reimbursement thing, or
I don't think that there's anything particularly unfair about this. I know that for our local jail, it would mean about.
Just seems like the right thing to do.
About $3 million more a year for them.
And is that statewide, or?
That's just at the local jail in Virginia Beach. I think that if we looked at that.
$3 million?
Yes, sir. So if you look at that from a reason for these jails to be able to provide that service, that's incentive.
Does anyone run the numbers, what the impact is across the state on this language amendment?
So these would be additional privilege or additional prisoners.
Robin, bail me out. Lifeline here, sorry. Okay, Chris, you've opened a big, big box here. Okay.
Robin DeSocio with the Compensation Board. We're the ones that process that recovery. We haven't run numbers on this amendment yet. We'll have to go back through and pull the number of federal inmates and figure out which ones are ICE, but I would say that we're recovering right now about $4.5 to $5 million a year for the federal overhead recovery statewide.
That's aggregated?
Yes.
Across the state?
For all federal inmates across all jails.
And so you're looking to add ICE to this?
No, ICE, you know, we have ICE inmates, we have U.S. Marshal Service, you could even have military that are housed, so we'd have to identify the ICE portion.
If I'm trying to understand how his bill would affect the rest of the state, because he just said $3 million for Virginia Beach. That's shy of what you said was aggregated across the state.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I don't have the breakdown of what Virginia Beach represents of the entire state. $3 million sounds a little bit high to me, but we can certainly run those numbers.
Can you run the numbers
yes,
and get them to David?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anything else, Chris?
I have a second amendment, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
This amendment.
I always enjoy hearing about a second amendment.
This is the amendment that came before the committee last year.
What page is that?
It's
Oh, I see.
This is
I got it.
383-1H.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is 1.5 million to fund the state's portion of what's called a 3x3x3 study. 3x3x3 studies are studies that are done by the Army Corps of Engineers. They evaluate projects within localities for future funding for federal dollars or federal grants. So the way the process works is that before we can get federal dollars for coastal flooding or disaster preparedness within an area, there has to be an approved project. The way that project is done is there's a study done. It's not really a study like we think about people sitting down. It's actually assessment of the needs. The Army Corps of Engineers does that need assessment. It comes up with projects. Those projects are then approved at the federal level, and then they're set on a shelf. And when federal dollars are freed up in the wake of a Sandy or a Katrina or even a Matthew, those folks having the projects sitting on the shelves are the ones that get funded. Currently, we have no projects sitting on the shelves. In the wake of Sandy, we had some, and we brought down several millions of dollars to address projects. Former head of the Army Corps of Engineers in Norfolk said that this is perhaps the most important piece of legislation or action that we can take in the General Assembly this year, is to get the first of these 3x3x3 studies done. That again allows us to assess projects within a designated area, get those projects approved, and get them ready for funding. This has to be done before we can draw down federal dollars to fix the shortfalls.
Questions for Delegate Scott? Delegate Connection?
Delegate Scott, I remember last year when we got into this, that there was talk of a state match. I really don't recall 50% being mentioned. Am I wrong in that? I think
Mr. Chairman, Delegate Poindexter, it has not changed. It is 50% match, so it's a $3 million study. The state's match of that is 50%.
I didn't remember the 50. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, do we have other members in the room? See other members in the room. We've actually done some pretty good work today. We've got through a number of our amendments so far. Let me do this. I don't want to consume a lot of time. Do members here, any of you, or Delegate Anderson, why don't we take a look at Delegate Anderson, he's on page 1. Rich, you want to go ahead and just kind of go through that real quick?
Let's see here, you're talking about item 421-1H.
No, I'm talking about 394. It's a Woodrum impact. Corrections Special Reserve Fund. It's on page 1 of your packet.
Oh, okay. What this is, Mr. Chairman, is I have a bill in right now that I'm carrying on behalf of the State Crime Commission, which I'm a member of, and it is to put into place a number of provisions that will likely significantly end this high trafficking of illegal cigarettes from Virginia into other states. We finally have come up with a package, and I think we have agreement by all. And what this budget amendment does is it facilitates that package. It has been scored as needing $50,000 in order to do the legislation. But in the end, what it does, it will leverage approximately, based on what I have been briefed on by the State Crime Commission Executive Director, on approximately $6 million for the general fund that will be, it's not leaving the state. So that's what that is about. That supports that piece of legislation from the State Crime Commission.
Any questions of Delegate Anderson? And I think you have another bill.
Yes, sir, I do. The Virginia National Guard it has fielded a medal which is known as the Virginia General Assembly Commendation Medal. And in order to purchase the materials, in other words, the actual ribbon and medal that accompanies the award, $8,740 in year 2 of the budget. And what this Virginia General Assembly Commendation Medal will be is that when members of the General Assembly, in their interfaces with members of the Virginia National Guard, Air or Army, observe a significant contribution over a period of time, then they may nominate an individual to the individual's commander, who, if approved, then they will be awarded the Virginia General Assembly Commendation Medal, and that medal will be presented by the nominating member of the General Assembly.
Questions about Delegate Anderson? Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm just going to go through a couple to make sure that we've heard everybody. Just to make sure that we've heard everybody that we're here today. Delegate Barak, did he arrive? Let's just take a quick look at Delegate Barak's item on page 8. It appears to be a Woodland impact. So we'll schedule him in next time so he can speak. And let's take a look real quick at Delegate Cox.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just sent Delegate Barak an email and a text. But
we're getting close to our caucus time, so did you just send him one?
I just notified him, yeah.
And we'll just kind of look at these others and wait a few minutes to give him a chance to go through. If not, we'll catch him on the next meeting. Delegate Cox deals with recovery programs for regional jails. Right, sure. And see Delegate Howell. Oh, Delegate Peace, do you have them in there?
I have 2.
I didn't have you on the list at all.
I don't think I signed up in the queue.
Okay, go ahead. Let's do Delegate Peace's. Delegate Peace, go ahead.
I am not yet acquainted with the policy and the benefits of the committee, so I need to get better about that. I have 2 amendments, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. One is item 398, 7H, it's on page 16, and it would continue our last several years of supporting closing the approximately $18 million gap in funding for domestic violence and sexual assault programs. And we provide $1.5 million in the second year from the general fund to sustain state funding used to match the Federal Victims of Crime Act funding, and the Victims of Crime Act funding provides funds to those federal grants to help work with issues of human trafficking, obviously the witness programs, and other sexual and domestic violence victim programs, including victims of dating violence. So, Mr. Chairman, as a caucus, I can tell you as well that our Uber chairman of appropriations has been very supportive of our efforts to close that funding gap, and we've had very good reports of the results of our investments over the last several years, including the restoration of call centers on the Eastern Shore, court accompaniment programs for victims, and many other services that are provided. So, Mr. Chairman, hopefully the committee will look favorably upon that item. The other item is 395-1H on page 15. I serve as one of the, I guess it's ex officio members of the DCGS board, and had the opportunity to meet with the director during the off season in between sessions, and in the wake of many of the national tragedies that we've all observed. And I had a simple question. I said I wanted to review the 6 pillars that are in the national report following the Ferguson incident with her, and we did. And in that conversation, I asked a question about the compulsory minimum training standards and when they were last updated. And the director informed me that it had been approximately 20 years since those compulsory minimum training standards had been updated. And that she indicated that there would be a willingness for the Training Standards Committee of the DCGAS to take a look at that. And so this language simply aligns with that desire and follows up on that conversation where DCJS and its membership, which, as you know, is a pretty large board, about 28 members representing the full spectrum of law enforcement, Commonwealth attorneys, and others, to take a look at those minimum training standards as well as the jail standards, which were updated about 10 years ago. And so this is really, I think, a good housekeeping amendment to get that process started. And it does give them quite a bit of time to contemplate that request without having to rush through. I don't want, none of us would want them to rush through that process and to take it in a much deliberate manner. So I think the committee would look favorably upon that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On this armory for Blues Armory.
I also have that. I didn't see
Let me
that.
just say that,
Yeah,
and looking at that, you're looking for 50,000 to do that update for them. Excuse me, just be aware that we are in a discussion right now where we are looking at all of the armories across the Commonwealth, and I think it's fair to say, David, we're trying to sort through what the strategic approach would be to how we're doing armories in general. Would that not be true?
That could be correct. Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not highlighting that third amendment. That armory is currently mothballed, essentially, and it is owned by the city of Richmond. And there's been conversations among some local folks in the Metro Richmond area trying to save that building as a historic matter. But there have been further conversations that it might actually be able to be re-entered into active use.
Yeah, and in the context, so you know, and I don't know if you sat in our committee that we looked at this the other day, but I don't know if you were here. Yeah, you might have been, but we've got like 45 armories across the state, and we're engaged in a conversation with the National Guard now to maybe collapse down to more regional focus, modern buildings, more up to date, and taking the armories that are out there currently, maybe selling the old armories to capitalize and reinvest in a new infrastructure approach to armories in general. These armories often were built in locations where, veterans were and soldiers were after World War II in the 1950s. And from a demographic viewpoint, they're wildly out of whack now. And so we have to relook them.
And while we're all downtown, before we take action, if you're familiar with Richmond's downtown 6th Street, if you remember, there was a 6th Street marketplace used to cross Broadway. The dead end of the 6th Street marketplace goes where the armory is. So
that was old John Marshall High School there too.
It's on Marshall Street, I believe.
Wasn't that the old John Marshall High School too?
That predates me. I'm not sure exactly.
Isn't that one?
No, the circuit court is where the John Marshall High School is.
Okay, I'm familiar then.
So 6th Street, and you'll be able to see it's a brick facade.
Right.
Pretty recognizable.
Okay.
Thank you.
That may not be a fit for the future vision for our armories, but okay. Do we have anyone else? All right, committee. You know what? We've done really good work because we've gotten all but about 4 of the people, and Delegate LaRock, has he gotten back to us now?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, well, he has a Woodrum impact thing. It should be fairly straightforward, and we'll have him up next time. Are there any other comments from the committee? If not, the subcommittee will rise.